Whatever you have to ask of me, however much time it takes, I'm here to serve you.
Thank you for that. We appreciate that because that gets us all raised.
I hope so.
Could you just
I hope
identify
so.
yourself and who you're representing for the minister?
My name is Maynard Eaton with the Atlanta Voice.
Atlanta Voice? Yes. Is that the paper of my brother that helped me when we got started?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Where?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir. It is.
J.Lo Where?
Yes.
Yes, that's the same.
Okay. I'm glad you're the first one to ask a question, because without that brother, he gave me so much encouragement when I started to rebuild the Nation of Islam. And I came here to Atlanta, and it was Mr. Ware who covered my little speeches and was a great source of inspiration for me. So please.
Two marches, one cause. Have politicians rallied around this cause? Noticeably after when you visit the elected officials like Mayor Campbell and others.
No, I think,
rallied to your cause?
no, Mayor Campbell has endorsed the Million Family March. Mayor Campbell has endorsed the Redeem the Dream. Mayor Campbell is well aware of the suffering of the family and the need to reconstruct family life, particularly among black people. State Senator Tyrone Brooks and members in the governor's office, people by and large have been supportive. So I would not say that the politicians, the black politicians, are not supportive. Even if they don't support me as a person, the principle is bigger than Louis Farrakhan. So they support the principle of the reconstruction of black family life again. It has nothing to do with the baggage that I unfortunately carry because of the way media has positioned me.
Minister Farrakhan, Helen Harlan's shared a broadcasting network. When this march is over and everything is wrapped up, what would you like for people to leave and go back to their homelands having benefited most from this result?
As I said earlier, if this is just a march for us to go to Washington and create an impactful scene and then go back home to what we left, then the march should be considered vanity. And then people should stay home. But what we are concerned with is what happens the day after the march. So I'm here to proudly say that we have gathered scholars and mainly organizers that are working right now for the day after, the week after, the month after, and the year after the march. We're not going to let politicians misuse the power of our vote, nor will we allow our people not to understand that political and economic maturity makes every one of our numbers a tangible factor of power, so that we know we can produce real change. So the family that comes together and prays together must be made to stay together after that march, so that we can leverage that mobilization and that organization to change the public policies of this nation, to change America's foreign policy, particularly as it impacts Africa and the Caribbean. We intend to be heavily involved in America's views. We intend to get the politicians to say enough is enough for the embargo on Cuba. 65% of the Cuban people are black. And the Cuban people are suffering because of this hatred of Fidel Castro and quote unquote communism. Well, if you hate it so bad, why not be consistent? Why would you admit China into the World Trade Organization and she's still communist? Why would you open up new trade opportunities for Vietnam and she's still communist, and will not seek a better dialogue, better relations with Cuba that is 90 miles away from the American coastline? It seems to me that if this is a Christian country, that Christ consciousness should be reflected in the policies of this nation. You are punishing Cuba because Cuba has exercised the right of self-determination. But you didn't punish Cuba when Batista was the head of that nation, and gambling and prostitution and crime and illiteracy were the order of the day. You never punished the dictators in Central and South America that supported the multinational corporate greed of America. But when those countries determined to do something that was in the benefit of their people and did not adopt democracy as a form of government, all of a sudden they are no good. Now we must find guns to finance revolution and strife in these countries. This has been the American way. So I feel it's time now that we must mobilize the masses of the American people that are totally dissatisfied, and then leverage that dissatisfaction to change America's policies, that America, at the pinnacle of her success, will turn out to be a great nation and not a powerful but corrupt and wicked nation.
Mr. Farrakhan, my name is Nicole Lee. I'm from the Atlanta Daily World newspaper.
Yes.
And I was looking through the agenda and I see you have specific sections on youth and computer literacy. Can you give me a thumbnail sketch as to how you will address those issues at the
You know that family life right now is suffering because in the home there really is no discipline. And any home in which there is no discipline, you can't tell me that we love our children if we won't discipline them. And if we won't discipline them in the home, then the teachers can't teach because there's no discipline in the school. So now the children leave the school and the home and they join the gang. Because in the gang, there's love that they missed at home. In the gang, there's a discipline that they missed at home. The unfortunate thing, in the gang, there's a gun. And in the gang, there is animosity toward another gang. Though you are the same people, you are blood of each other's blood. So we decided, and we know that our youth is the greatest generation that we've ever produced, are our young people out there today. And what they reflect in gang life is only what the big gangs are doing. And the big gangs are called governments. The rappers that we delight in putting down because their language is filthy, they're only bringing out in the streets what bourgeois Negroes do behind closed doors. So what they are is a mirror of the corruption of our life. I have been blessed to call together the top rap artists, and in this agenda you will see the pledge that the rappers took at my home in Chicago. I have called all of them leaders, all of them ambassadors, and I have encouraged all of them to use rap to raise the level of consciousness of our young people. Now we must talk about the digital divide. Is that what they call it?
Yes,
That's
sir.
what I hear.
Something like that.
We must bring our young people and our people into the modern age of technological advancement. We believe that we can put a computer in every home. Because today, if we make the kind of alliances that God has blessed me to make in my World Friendship Tour, we can buy computers either here or in Korea or China at a very cheap price. But we must encourage our people to put the computer in every home. And you watch the children. I am not computer literate. I'm from the old school. I'm sorry, I just have to tell the truth. But my grandchildren, at 5 and 6, are on the computer. They must have access to this technology because this is the wave of the future. If we do, my sister, what we pledged to do downstairs, Martin Luther King III, Reverend Al Sharpton, myself, and you will see Reverend Jackson Kwesi and Fume Hugh Price. But we're reaching now into the streets with the street organizations that they call gangs. And they will be at the Million Family March wearing their colors. As you know, we as Muslims don't use guns. But since our young people have such a romance with the gun, then maybe we ought to try to turn them into a militia that protects the community rather than terrorizes it. Maybe we can give them instruction with the gun, that they become responsible. And maybe we can get black officers who are on the police force to guide the young black men, give them economic opportunities, and maybe we can tell the mayors, let us police our own community and let us strive to make our own community a decent place to live. Our young people don't want to sell drugs, but if that's the only economic opportunity avenue for them, we're forcing them to take that street, knowing that the prison industrial complex is building and building, and it's building on the hope that our people will involve themselves in criminal activity, and so that a new form of slavery will come from our peoples being herded down a narrow road of criminal behavior. Crack cocaine and the unfair sentencing for crack cocaine, turning our children out, more black women in prison today than ever before, and now the children of black people becoming wards of the state and then being adopted into white homes so that grandmothers of consciousness can't put consciousness into our children. our children being reared again like it was in slavery by white people, giving them the ideals of white supremacy. We can't permit this to happen. So the fight that we will wage, since I'm looking at mature men and women, and when I say mature, I know that you're all teenagers and whatnot. I can't. Yes, definitely. On a serious note, you are mature and maturing, young men and women. If we fight the good fight, if we wage the kind of struggle that we should wage, not fearing for our bread, but fearing that we will sentence another generation of black people to the same legacy of cowardice that has been passed on to us by those who are afraid to struggle to make life better for us. But if we struggle like we should, then our youth system will be passed the baton of life to struggle on a much higher level than we are struggling today. So that section on youth and computer literacy is dealing with the future, but we have to do our part that the youth will be able to conquer the digital divide. And just as I listened to them on the television this morning talking about Tiger Woods, is this a dream? They're saying, is this fantasy that a young man could come and conquer the golf world? Tiger is just a sign of little black babies, boys and girls growing up today that will take that computer and do things that have never been seen before. We have to give them that chance. If the enemy won't give us equality of opportunity, we have to create that. And lastly, I will say on that, I know that as long as white supremacy is the prevailing philosophy in America, we will never enjoy a full and complete freedom. We will never enjoy equal justice under the law. We will never have equality of opportunity. And therefore, if we don't struggle to destroy the mindset of white supremacy or destroy the philosophy of white supremacy, then we have sentenced our generations to exactly what we have: limited freedom, limited justice, limited equality. How can we destroy this damning philosophy that damns white people to a mentality that makes them subhuman and damns us to a mentality of black inferiority that also confines us to subhuman behavior? We destroy it by black excellence. Whatever you do, you have to do it to the best of your ability. It's difficult for the white golfers to call Tiger the nigger golfer. It's difficult for the white girls on the tennis court to call Serena and Venus the nigger tennis players. These are the best, and they haven't even reached their prime. Here's a 24-year-old golfer that has conquered the golf world, and they asked him this morning, do you think you can get better? He said, of course. So black excellence. I met a young girl, 18 years old, about 3 weeks ago, she came to my home in Chicago. You know I'm a violinist, and that was my hope as a youngster. Well, this girl, 18, oh, she's black. Oh, she's beautiful. Her hair's short. And she's African. I mean, you know, you can tell this. You can't, in other words, if a light-skinned person beat the ball over the wall, they say, oh, that's white blood.
That's right.
And they can't say that with Serena. They can't say that with Venus. And they try to say, well, you know, he's Afro-Asian. You know, the boy is black. That's all they say. But this child is just black and beautiful. And when she put that violin to her chin, she did all the things that I hoped and dreamed that I would be able to do one day. Here's an 18-year-old girl, but who is going to push that girl out front so that the world will see that as we conquer on the tennis court, on the golf course, we've conquered on the stage with the hardest instrument in the world to play, that we can conquer in mathematics, in science, wherever we are. Give us equality of opportunity. You don't have to give us no break. Just let us in the door, and we'll show you how this thing is supposed to be done, because we are the direct descendants of God, and that ain't black supremacy. That's just truth. So we can bust up white supremacy, and we can start right at this table by being the best that we can. Don't do sloppy work. Whatever you do, make your work worthy of praise, because you are from God. And I've never seen a mediocre bee. Have you? A mediocre fly. A mediocre flea. Then look at the planets. Everything that God creates demands our awe. And we are the greatest of God's creation, the human being. How dare us come up mediocre when we are capable of excellence in everything that we do. May God bless us to do it.
Yes, Father. On the line of Constitution.
Yes. 2 more questions.
2 more, okay.
Early starts with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I actually do have 2 questions. Hope I don't take anyone else's time. But first one is compared to 1995 and the time leading up to the Million Man March. How have things gone in terms of your the interest and buzz around your tours and talking to people? And what kind of effect will the march that the earlier march have on this march in terms of having 2 marches at the same, pretty much the same time period? Are there any fears that one will take away from the other? And I have a second question as well.
What's your second question?
Well, being here in Georgia, being here in Atlanta, I've been writing a lot of stories about Jamil Abdul-Alameen, and I was wondering what your thoughts about that. Have you had a chance to talk to him?
I will answer your second question. I hope to see him before I leave the city of Atlanta. He's my brother, and I love him much, and I want to hear from him. It grieves me that any human being's life is lost, but for anyone to turn it into the crusades of Muslims and Christians fighting each other would be counterproductive and not in the best interest of our community. We need to find the facts, whatever those facts are, and we need to judge this incident and all on the basis of what are the facts, what is the truth. And our goal as media people, persons, is to find the truth. Pull up the cover, look for the truth. And wherever the truth leads us, that's where we need to go. And if Jamil is in error, then okay, he must pay the price of error. If Jamil is an innocent victim, he must not be allowed to be tried in the press. And then the aura of guilt is put over him because circumstances may lead us to believe that he is guilty. Do you follow me? The black media must not follow the white media because the white media always has another agenda. And that's why our media came into existence. It was because their agenda is not our agenda, and we must never let their agenda become our agenda. And since you all live in Atlanta, and this incident took place in Atlanta, and it affects Atlantans who are Christian and Muslim, then it behooves us to do the painstaking research to find the truth and print the truth. And what we don't know, it is not wise to give assumptions, because our people will read and our people will be affected. The Atlanta Voice and the black media must be the voice, the voice, the voice of the voiceless. That's why you are here. Now, the question about the marches and whether they will hurt each other, we have between 30 and 40 million people. We could fill the mall over and over again. The largest growing group in America is the Latino or Hispanic population. They are with us in the march against police brutality and police racial profiling, and they're with us in the Million Family March. We will not draw away from each other. We will complement each other, and we are determined that we will not let the forces of division raise our personalities and our ideological differences or religious differences to obscure the real cause of both of these marches: police brutality, racial profiling, the reconstruction of family life in America, particularly as it relates to the blacks, the Native Americans, and the Hispanic community. Thank you.
Just a bit about
This will be the last
Just a
question.
bit about your
I'm Arthur Bronner with Bronner Brothers.
Oh, my-
Upscale Magazine.
Yes,
Not
brother.
a question, but just wanted to let you know that we were here, and I know that my uncle was a very good friend of the Nation of Islam and so forth. So I don't have a question, but just wanted to be.
Well,
you know,
I have a statement on your statement. You know, I sit in the seat of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I use the name the Nation of Islam because I believe in him and I believe in the principles that he taught. There are people that belong to the nation that have made errors, mistakes, and have done things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and I would be ashamed of. The murder of Malcolm X is a tragedy. No human being's life should be taken because of a religious difference. No matter how painful the controversy may be, each person has the right to live, to grow, to see either the truth of what we say or do or the error of our ways, that we might correct ourselves. So I sat down recently with Sister Attila Shabazz, in hopes of beginning, as we did with her mother, keeping the steps going to reconcile wounds that were inflicted on the family of Malcolm and Betty Shabazz, and those wounds also affected the rise of black people. And I say to Bronner Brothers, who were good to us, when we had no home, Bronner Brothers rented us a facility and allowed us the use of that facility. And from what I understand, when they moved on to some place, that place was trashed. I don't know who did that, but I offer to you and to your family my sincere hurt and apology, because we have people among us, my brother, that say they are Muslims and they are not. There are people in the gangs who are inserted there by police, and I have learned that the National Security Agency of the United States government has recruited young college students and sent them in among the nation to disrupt us and to break our connection to our people. No one would do what was done except an enemy. Wolves that come in sheep's clothing, huh? They are in the church. There is no great pastor in Atlanta that doesn't have an enemy inside that church that will work to destroy that pastor, particularly if that pastor is being effective. So all of us must watch for the enemy within, even as we guard against the enemy outside. I want you to know that I love your family and I honor your family, and I thank God for your family and the good that your family has done for so many, but in particular for the membership of the Nation of Islam. And some of the members of the Nation of Islam who claim to follow me have injured certain people in the city of Atlanta. Why would you injure a beautiful person such as Dr. Barbara King or Reverend McDonald? Why would we do something to hurt people like this, whom we know are good people who have helped us? Only an enemy would do something like that. And unfortunately, the Nation of Islam is feared by the forces of white supremacy. And they have planted many wicked people among us. And as the Bible says, where there are 2 or 3 of you gathered together in my name, there I am also. The FBI says the same. Now the last question on my health. Yes.
My name's Jamie Carlington. I'm with NBC Network here in Atlanta. And as a broadcast, we want to know, how would you like to see broadcasters assist you in getting your message out about your marches? And how would you like to assist you before, during, and after as well?
That relates to my health. You have to do the best that you can when you know that there's something good and there's something positive. But you have editors, you have people that control this media. This is the way they make sheep out of the people. They get control of the means by which the people access information. If you're a black newspaper, you depend on advertising. So I'll become an advertiser so I can control your editorial policy. And I'll become substantial so that you depend on me. Not me personally, but I'm speaking now of a white big shot. And then when you write something that I don't like, someone will show up and say, we didn't like your editorial last week. And some of the people in my firm have said that if you continue to write like this, we'll have to take our ad elsewhere. That's control. And it is this that your brother is fighting. I'm not hateful of Jews. As God is my witness, I'm not anti-Semitic. But you know what I hate? I hate the control that makes you less a man than you want to be, because you can't say what you want to say. You can't write what you want to write, because you got to always look over your shoulder to please somebody else. That's what I hate. I hate the fact that you're in major media and want to do good, but there's somebody always there looking over your shoulder to show you how you could do it better and be more balanced. You must say the man that called Hitler great and Judaism a gutter religion. See? That's what I hate. I hate control. And I know that we will never be free as a people as long as black intellectuals that are at Harvard or Yale or Howard or other colleges are afraid to be free intellectuals, but they've got to appease certain elements of the community in order to get tenure or to keep what they have. Do you follow me? So, sister, you must work within your reality. Don't endanger your reality, because we need you there. And we need you to grow more strong and powerful there. So how do you do that? So sing a song in the church. It's old spiritual. Steal away. Steal away. Steal away to Jesus. We couldn't walk away. You were giving a message to the other slaves. Don't run away. Let's steal away. And stealing away means be careful of the steps that you take, because you know God is calling you. And he's calling you in the thunder of what is happening in the black community, that every one of us have to do our part. Whatever that part is, however small, however big, we all got to do our part, because all of us are suffering, and all of our children will suffer in the future if all of us don't do our part. Your reality is not his reality. You work within your reality. I work within mine. You work within yours. And whenever you can say something that is positive, say it. And whenever you can promote the good that you feel and know and are sure is what this is, say it. And then when they call you in the office and ask you, are you following Farrakhan? And you tell them, no, but I like the fact that he's calling family together. I'm a single mother, a parent, and I need a father for my son, or I need to see the family reconstructed. You know, there's all kind of ways to get around it. They just can't fight family. NBC. Oh, NBC is a black station. So what? That don't yet make it free. Just remember that. Ain't nothing free in America that you got to go to white folks for your money to keep it going. You're not free, because white folk ain't giving you money unless they can control where you're going. I know that, right, brother?
Yes.
We know that, don't we?
Yes.
Okay, so what are we working for? We're working to free them. with $550 billion coming into our hand, all of our institutions should be free if we use the money that comes into our hands more proper. So that's our job. That's our function, to awaken our people to the degree that our people will allow you to be free by supporting MBC to the point where they are free to say what is in the best interest of our people. Every one of these brothers who are Willie Gray, Evander Holyfield, Cecil Fielder, Alvin James, Marlon Jackson, beautiful brothers. Every one of them want to see our people made better. But every one of them, there's a ceiling over all their heads. It ain't there in the picture, but I see it. And that's what I'm working for, to bust that ceiling up so that we can really be not what's on the tomb of the brother. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we still singing, we gonna be free? Hell no. We got to say in this generation, because I'm willing to suffer whatever it takes, we will be free at last. I'm getting well. I'm getting well. I'm about 85%. I don't have any more cancer so far in my body, by the grace of God. But I'm fighting the after effects of a very high dose of radiation, and the after effects are what nearly killed me. And I have one more operation that I'm going to have, and we've scheduled it for after the Million Family March. And hopefully after that operation, God willing, I'll be 100%.
Minister Farrakhan, just so you're aware, also a part of the Bronner Brother family is the Upscale magazine. And that is an 11-year-old publication that is nationwide or worldwide in circulation, just for your information.
It's wonderful to know. And I'm glad I said what I said. And I hope you'll help us to go on up the scale. We really need what we saw downstairs today. That was beautiful. To see Martin King III, Reverend Al. And what was beautiful was what was behind us. Reverend MacDonald, Reverend Osborne. We know that Reverend Dr. Durley is with us. We know that Tyrone Brooks is with us. Here's Benjamin F. Muhammad, formerly Benjamin Chavis. And what we're doing is just mobilizing our people. And then nobody asking us about what your ideology is. Here it is, a national agenda. Take some time and go through it. And those who would like to access it that don't have a book, the website is www.millionfamilymarch.com. And on that website is the audit of the Million Man March and the monies that came to the Million Man March. I promised our people that I would give them an accounting, and we did. Reverend Bishop Brookins of the AME Church came to my room before the Million Man March and said, Farrakhan, are you going to use this march to proselytize your faith? And I said, no, brother. I said, in fact, I'm going to ask all these men to join the church, the mosque, or the temple of their choice, and join an organization that is fighting for the uplift of our people. He looked at me with an almost incredible look, and he said, brother, you gonna do that? I said, yes, sir, brother. He sat behind me on that rostrum. And I know that it's difficult to believe that a man would say something like that and then do it. As a result of that, SCLC had to put on new staff because their phones were flooded. The NAACP got new membership. CORE got new membership. The Masjid got new membership. The Nation of Islam got membership. And the churches reported black men coming back to church. Somebody asked me, but Farrakhan, you know, you seem to be a divisive force. I said, on the contrary, that's why I'm feared, because I'm bigger than what is called my faith tradition. And at that 1 million man march, you saw everybody represented, right? Reverend Jesse Jackson came to my room and he said, Farrakhan, how much time can I have to speak? I said, Reverend Jackson, I can't give you a time. You speak until you say what you came to say. Nobody would have done that for me. Thank you all.
Farrakhan, may I ask the final question? I think I'm the only one that hasn't yet. I am Leslie Royal and I am with Upscale Magazine. And my question to you is, the policy issues that you set forth here in your agenda, how did you determine what they would be? And how would you like for families to go back into their communities and implement them?
This will be the final question.
I think we had to listen to the cries coming up out of the people. Was the head of the NAACP. It was he who coined the phrase environmental justice. It was he and the NAACP that focused on black folk living and buying homes on sites that are contaminated, and they know that the waste under the soil will give those on top of the soil cancer. When we listen to the cry of our people for education and better education against police brutality, racial profiling, we went among the Arabs and we listened to their cry, the Native Americans and their cry, the Hispanics and their cry, the Pacific Islanders and their cry. So by listening to the cry of the people, we could formulate an agenda that was universal in scope. They have not a screwdriver, but something that you can use that takes all kind of nuts down. I don't know what you call that. Yeah, thank you. But they make things today that can fit all things, and they call it universal.
Universal ranch.
Yeah, the condition of humanity is universal. The suffering in Africa, the suffering among ethnic groups in Europe, in Asia, the Caribbean, Central South America, the human condition demands a solution that can be applied universally. Now, all of us may be sick with the same thing, but those who are sick with it to a greater degree need a greater dose of the same medication. You know, if I'm just a little crazy, they might give me something that's 5 milligrams. But if I have a serious problem, they may dope me up pretty good. What I'm suggesting is that we listen to the cry. The cry is universal. The agenda must match the cry. There are women's issues that I think we can even be stronger on, because the cry of women all over the world is similar. Here are Christian women and Muslim women, but the women in the mosque and the women in the church are not yet what God wants them to be. Because anytime the church can say that a woman should not even speak in the church, and we know that without the female there wouldn't be no church. And for the first time in AME, in the AME world, a woman was made a bishop. And I, for the first time in Islam, gave a woman a horrible job. To be a woman in a chauvinistic religious experience. You have yet to hear of a female rabbi, right? You ought to ask them kind of questions. Because women in Judaism also have that feeling. And it was reflected in the Barbara Streisand's movie called Yentl. She had to act like a boy, dress like a boy, in order to get the kind of religious instruction that was only for boys. See? We go to the mosque in the Middle East and in Africa, mosque air-cooled, men all in the mosque. You look outside, women outside. And you gonna claim that you're from God? No. There gotta be reform in Islam. There gotta be reform in Christianity. There gotta be reform in Judaism, and there gotta be reform in the thinking of men where women are concerned. And that's why, though I'm not a communist, I praise communist leaders, because they were in the vanguard of freeing women to participate on all levels with men. Cuba is like that. China is like that. Now, sisters, they'll give you a job, but you don't get equal pay. Not yet. Road to go. In Africa, among some nations, they are circumcising women. It ain't circumcision, it's mutilation. It is abuse of the highest order. All of these things have to be spoken to. And if people want to be comfortable, they don't want to make no waves. But Farrakhan will make waves, I don't care. I showed up in one country, and they said, "What are you going to say, Farrakhan?" And I told him I'm going to speak about the rights of women. He said, "You won't say that here." I said, "I ain't no dog. You ain't going to muzzle me." I said exactly what I came to say. I think it's time for us to speak, because the people will stand with you, because the people are suffering, because ain't nobody taking up their cry. So I say, "Here am I, God, send me, and whatever I have to suffer, to speak to the hurt of human beings, I will do that until God takes me from this planet. And I have children that are like that. I have now many men and women that are like that. They're coming up like that in the church. They're coming up like that in the mosque. We got strength coming up. And you can help them by just feed them. May God bless you all.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Give my love to the family, please. And my apologies. Thank you. Love you. Love you. Alaikum salam, my sister. Thank you. I'm wonderful by the grace of God. Thank you, sister. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. I got one more thing to do.
Yes, sir.
I gotta write my house. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.